Hey, this is a response to Eire138 about your Matthew 18:18 video. I had to write down everything because I go through quite a few Bible verses, but I wanted to try to give my thoughts on it. So forgive me if I'm looking off in this direction. I'm kind of reading what I had written down just now. First, let us be clear that Mark 2:10 states that the Son of Man has the authority to forgive sins. But also, it is understood that God is the only one who can forgive sins. This supports the notion that Jesus was declaring himself as God in the second person of the Trinity Godhead. So, only God can forgive sins. And that's concerning the cosmic scale of justification, concerning that doctrine. But, however, forgiveness of sins does not mean that a person will no longer sin. Sin and the results of sin are still present in this life, although they have no bearing on one's eternal standing with God via salvation. Ergo, if you choose to commit a sin, the consequences still have an earthly effect on your body, mind, and whatever else that sin could affect. So if you, for example, get angry and cuss out somebody, that is obviously going to do some damage to the relationship between you and that person. When sin enters the group of believers, it must be dealt with. This is why Christ commands us to deal with it the way he says to in Matthew 15 through 17. So let's say some damage is done via sin to the personal relationships, or just a person who is sinning in general will affect the body of believers in spiritual unrest. The harmony is thrown off balance between the believer and God, but also the body of believers as a unit. And to have the body of believers in unrest is to have a problem in their spiritual connection to God. So how does this play out in relation to Matthew 18:18, stating that whatever you bind in heaven will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose will be loosed in heaven? As you did point out, recall the context surrounding that passage. It was dealing with sin in the body of believers. It was seeking to point out the sin because sin affects the one who sins and that person's relationship with God. It also has an effect on the rest of the believers. That is why believers are told to point and deal with the sin, to point out and deal with the sin. As believers, we always want harmony with each other and God. So to achieve that harmony, the one who is sinning must repent of that sin. If that person has affected the body of believers, especially in a direct way, the believers affected must forgive the person in sin. But why do I say that? If we go to Matthew chapter 6 and read verses 14 and 15, it says, "For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins." But you may ask, how do we relate that to justification since we're already saved? And justification stating that we're saved by God. This just goes back to the restoration of the fellowship and relationship with believers as well as God. It kind of puts the harmony back in place. In Matthew 18, 21 through 22, it states, "Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, 'Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?' And Jesus answered, 'I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Now this is a bit of like a mathematical to blow Peter's mind kind of thing to show him that you're supposed to forgive a lot. Following that question, Jesus gives the parable of the unmerciful servant in the following passages and concludes basically in Matthew 18 verse 35 that if someone is unforgiving, then they are spitting in the face of the forgiveness shown them by God. It is a sin, basically, not to forgive, especially once you have been forgiven. Forgiveness is such a huge part of the narrative of a Christian's life because they were forgiven by God. Hence, it is always important to forgive somebody. It goes right back, the whole parable runs right back to answering Peter's question about how many times do we forgive. It answers why we should forgive. So the basic gist of Matthew 18:18 is stating that if you are forgiving others, then God will be forgiving of you. And if you are not forgiving of others, then God will not be forgiving of you. In the whole relational fellowship context. Now, this could play a potential role in the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit as the only unforgivable sin, but I have not studied far enough into that yet to make connections, but I can do some research, and if you want to discuss that later, that would be fine with me. So, to conclude, the heart of Matthew 18:18 is about restoration of fellowship and forgiveness. And this point is reinforced and driven home in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 30 through 32, that says, "Do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." So that's kind of my take on it, and I hope that helps.